Relationships, they can be hard, incredibly hard sometimes. But what if the most painful part of relationships wasn't the conflict? What if it was the intensity of the emotions? So the emotions, that deep down voice, deep down inside where your mind is racing, where you whisper to yourself, what if they leave? What if I'm too much? What if I'm not enough? The truth is, for many people, that fear, it doesn't come from what's happening in the present moment. It stems from earlier attachment wounds that haven't been healed. It stems from wounds that formed a long time ago, many times way back in childhood. Hello, my dear. Welcome back to the Darren Well podcast. I'm so grateful that you're here today. Today, we're continuing our series on attachment styles and healing attachment wounds. The intention of this episode, it's not to label, it's not to diagnose, nor to add shame or blame to you or to any of your loved ones. I hope that this episode helps you to understand with compassion and with grace the emotional patterns that may be showing up in some of your relationships. So because if you know better, you can do better, right? So awareness is the first key to making healthy choices and healthy changes. And today we're going to take a closer look at that. We're going to take a closer look at what attachment is, what it feels like, how and when did it start. And we're going to wrap up today with some ways to tune into your truth and loving kindness to help to calm the nervous system's stress and fear response of abandonment. So if you've ever felt like you needed constant reassurance in relationships, if you've ever worried about someone pulling away or felt overwhelmed by the possibility of losing love or connection in a relationship, I hope that this episode will offer you some clarity and some hope for the possibility to create new healthy relationship patterns. If you find yourself in today's attachment style, remember, you're not broken. You simply learned how to adapt and how to survive in situations that felt unpredictable. And you learned survival strategies. So congratulations, you survived. And those survival strategies, they etched into your nervous system, your mind, your body, and your spirit. And those were etched into your spirit and mind and body a long time ago. But the beautiful thing is, what you learned, it can also be unlearned, and it can also be healed. So when and where did this anxious attachment, where did it start? Where did it come from? What research says is that the anxious attachment style, it usually begins early in childhood. It begins with our relationship with our primary caregivers. So what happens, we learn all these things in childhood, and then we rubber stamp every other future relationship, these patterns the same way, and we respond the same way. And as children, we depend on our caregivers for so many things. We depend on them for emotional regulation to provide our basic needs, such as love. So love through word, through deed, through action, through safe touch, through safety, so emotional safety, physical safety, and other basic needs like clothing, like food, like shelter. Inconsistencies that we learn to adapt to, it can include how often our caregivers offer love and affection. It can also look like our caregivers who are emotionally distant, who were emotionally distracted, who were overwhelmed, or simply physically unavailable. For a young child, this inconsistency can feel confusing. When we perceive at an early age that these needs are not being met, if they're only being met in an inconsistent manner, we develop these internal stories to make sense of our world. Sometimes connection is here and sometimes it disappears. We learn that love, it's conditional. We learn that love and attention needs to be earned. And because of this uncertainty, the child's nervous system and later develops into an adult who becomes clingy, who becomes needy, who becomes hyper-focused on maintaining closeness any means necessary in relationships. In adults, they learn to stay alert. And even as children, they learn to stay alert to any perceived signs of disconnection. So they become hypersensitive to changes in tone, to body language, to emotional unavailability. This is not manipulation. This is just how they've learned to read the room, to read their environment. It's simply an adaptive strategy that was learned in childhood. As a child, their beautiful brain seeks to maintain control by focusing on what do I need to do to keep connection, emotional safety. What do I need to do to keep that from going away? And over time, this is what starts to show up as unhealthy relationship patterns in adulthood. So let's take a look at some of the stories that we tell ourselves when we're stuck in anxious attachment. This can show up in moments when we perceive that someone's pulling away, when we think that someone doesn't respond right away to our bid for connection, or if somebody simply takes longer than what we expect to answer our texts or our calls. You may start to question yourself, thinking, did I say something wrong? Did I do something wrong? Are they upset with me? Are they pulling away? You might even think that I'm not lovable, and love can disappear in any minute. You might think that I have to work hard to make people happy or to keep people close. You might even think that I can't disagree for fear that they'll leave me. But underneath all of those belief systems, it's a deeper emotional message of fear of abandonment. This fear that connection, it's fragile. This fear that connection is not stable. And because connection feels undependable, the nervous system, it stays on high alert and it stays in a state of constant anxiety. So always scanning, always watching, always performing, always trying to prevent loss by trying to earn their worthiness, trying to earn love, trying to earn connection with others, and approval and affirmation. So what does anxious attachment look like and feel like in the body? Well, anxious attachment is not just a mental mindset, it's also an adaptive nervous system experience. People with anxious attachment often feel emotions very deeply and very intensely. So when connection feels strong, they may feel warm and fuzzy inside. They may feel close. They may feel deep affection and love and honor and respect and valued. But when connection feels uncertain, they may feel or experience racing thoughts. They may feel tightness in their chest. They may feel knots in their stomach. They may feel restless. They may have difficulty with concentrating, or they may feel emotionally overwhelmed. But what their body is really trying to say is it's unsafe to connect. It's unsafe to connect. This response to safety, it's a primary basic need, and it's closely tied to the sympathetic nervous system. And I've talked about this umpteen times in previous episodes, but for a quick refresher, this is part of our nervous system that activates the fight or the flight stress response. The body interprets potential disconnection as a threat or a stressor. And so our minds and our nervous system, it quickly works to fix or eliminate the threat or the stressor. So in adult relationships, anxious attachment can show up in situations at work or with social relationships like need and frequent reassurance, need and frequent affirmation. It can also look like worrying that someone's going to hate you. It can look like overanalyzing text messages or replaying conversations over and over in your mind. It can look like feeling deeply hurt by perceived small signs of distance. It can look like finding it difficult to be at peace and to relax in relationships. It can look like feeling responsible for maintaining the connection or making the other person happy. But in adult relationships, this can lead to behaviors that look like having difficulty with expressing your emotions or your needs directly. It can look like fear of conflict and shutting down. It can look like becoming emotionally overwhelmed during disagreements. Or it can look like assuming roles where you're overgiving, overperforming, and people pleasing. And again, these relationship patterns are not character flaws. They're just attempts to maintain safety, to maintain control, and to protect a perceived loss of connection. So if safety was learned that it can be lost, then that is the place where we need to repair and heal the past versions of ourselves. The healing journey for anxious attachment, it looks like creating internal safety and reframing negative belief systems. As a mindset coach, I get the honor, I get the joy of helping clients find freedom through reframing their negative beliefs to strengthen their mindset and developing stronger belief systems that from the inside out to heal those deep core beliefs. So instead of relying entirely on external measures for affirmation and validation and support and others to regulate your emotions, you can learn to begin to learn how to co-regulate and self-regulate. So I have four tips that I want to share with you about how to heal your anxious attachment. So number one, nervous system awareness. You have to start with awareness. That's the first step. So learning to tune into your body so you can learn to recognize when your body is moving into this state of heightened anxiety, heightened fear, and start by simply noticing the sensations in your body and interrupt those anxious thoughts. So where are those anxious thoughts showing up at? Are they showing up in your relationship with your partner? Are they showing up in relationships at work with your coworkers, with your boss? Are they showing up in how you connect with your friends? Where are these relationship patterns showing up? Number two, so learning to slow down the story. So slow it down. Anxiety makes us speed and feel like we're going so fast to solve a future problem, but it makes us not in the present moment. So again, our minds, they create stories to make sense of our world, especially when we feel unsafe or unsure. For example, they didn't text me back. They must be upset with me. So instead of jumping to that conclusion, challenge that story. Choose to learn and choose to lean into truth with loving kindness, asking, what's the proof? Or is this my fear speaking again? So what's the proof? Or is this my fear speaking again? Number three, practicing positive self-talk. So what I'm not talking about is putting on rosy colored glasses that just put on like Band-Aids to cover up old unhealed wounds that just simply reinforce abandonment fears. That's not what we're doing. We need to talk back to those anxious thoughts and ground ourselves with the truth with statements like, I am safe, I am in control, I am loved, I am enough, I am more than enough, I am worthy, I don't have to do anything to earn it, and thinking that connection can be safe. Giving yourself permission to think and to believe that connection can be safe. Number four, building safe, healthy, and supportive relationships. Healing, it happens in the presence of relationships that are safe, that are consistent, that are predictable. Relationships where communication, it feels clear, not clear as mud, but they feel clear. It happens where communication and boundaries are respected and honored, and where it feels safe to express openly what you feel, what you think, what you believe, and even your needs without fear. Over time, You can come out of the numbness, come out of the fear, and you can learn to calm that stress response in your body and heal your inner child. And slowly but surely begin to rewire your nervous system so that you can have healthy relationships. As we wrap up today, I just want to remind you that healing attachment wounds, it takes time, it takes consistency, and showing up for yourself with kindness, with grace. Your future self, it's going to thank you for putting in the hard work to heal and to grow. Because every moment of awareness, it gets you one step closer to emotional freedom in both your mind and also in your relationships. So if this episode resonated with you, please leave me a review and please share it with someone who you know needs a reminder that healing attachment wounds is possible, that having healthy relationships is possible. And as always, thank you for being part of the Darren Well community. Until next time, keep living, keep loving, and keep daring well. Take care, my dear. God bless.